Tough there, Brian.
I should run more on Sundays.
You sound like, you run down the road, yeah, that's how I get it.
I'll keep on saying to
Oh,
people.
good. Okay. We'll call the meeting to order, thank you. So the meeting's open. There are 3 apologies today. Councillors Glasgow, Jerusalem and Jackson are all apologies. This is a special meeting to consider 2 matters. I might begin by asking Dorothy Dixon, the CEO, for the sake of those watching, why it is we need to have a special meeting to deal with these 2 items.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The question's really one of timing. We, as Council will be aware, have been working on a project to give the Aquatic Centre a refresh after 25 years or so. We want to get into that during the winter months. We've been through a tender process recently, which those tenders were assessed, but the finalisation of that tender assessment occurred after the last round of meetings, after the May round with the agendas and so on. We don't want to wait to the June ones to get the contractors going. So suggested a special meeting today to be able to have a look at those 2 tenders, put forward recommendations as to which contractors we'll use, and then we can get going with the timing.
Okay, thank you. So the first item is the Noosa Aquatic Centre roof and deck replacement. We have Ash here to answer questions. Anyone got any questions on the report?
Question, Ash, in the attachment 1, the methodology, the weighted attribute evaluation spreadsheet, one of the criteria is methodology to support Gantt chart. Just in simple terms, what is a Gantt chart and what do you mean by methodology to support a Gantt chart?
Sure. So the Gantt chart was requested from all respondents to outline the critical elements of the project and to show us the timeline for completion and how they all interlinked and what was reliant on other items happening prior to that. And the methodology was really the opportunity for respondents to explain how they would approach these tasks. So at a high level, while the replacement of a roof and a rebuild of a deck sounds reasonably simple, we wanted to know how they would approach that with regard to timing of elements and coordination of different trades on site. So we had a level of confidence that they'd given that adequate consideration.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, mate, Mr Mayor, just regards to the cost of the project. So we're a bit over budget, what we put in the budget. Is that right, Ash?
Yeah, all 7 responses actually came in higher than the budget that we had allocated. Our recommendation, the price is slightly over budget. There was a large variance. We had done some work in the lead up to have it quantity surveyed, so we had an estimate for roof replacement separately and another report that inspected the deck and then made recommendation for replacement and gave us a cost estimate on there. Collectively, that came around that $350,000 mark, but it has come in a little bit over.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So within our budget, we can shift a bit around.
Yeah, we have.
Won't have trouble.
Yeah, there are a number of capital projects occurring at the NAC in 1920 financial year, so we have a little bit of flexibility depending on the process we get for other projects as well as the broader VR process, so we're not overly concerned. No.
Yeah, okay, mate, no worries.
So, Mr Chair, the report mentions the cost of the project itself, but with the pool being shut down for that period, what is the cost in terms of loss of revenue for ratepayers?
Yep. There is a substantial impact on revenue, obviously, with the doors closed. It's quite a period for us. It's probably about $4,000 per day lost revenue, but then there are savings that we have as well through reduction in labour, utilities, some of those direct costs that are associated with opening the doors. It boils down to about $1,500 a day net cost. That's our estimate. Based on historical data and trends. So it's definitely in everyone's best interest to get the doors back open as quickly as we can, and that was a point that was made pretty clear in the tender process, and we found some contractors that are able to deliver things reasonably quickly, and we're all keen to get the doors back open.
So it's basically over 2 months, so it's 60 days, 1,500, what's that, about $90,000?
Yeah, look, we've had to factor in a number of things into the budget. We're also not sure how quickly we'll be able to ramp back up as well. So once we do reopen, we'd imagine that it would take a little bit of time for people to get back into the habit of visiting regularly. particularly at this time of year, being winter where it's a little bit colder, a little bit darker. People perhaps aren't so keen to come down and jump straight back into swimming laps or doing aquatic activities. So we've made a fairly healthy contingency allowance in the budget there so that we hopefully can achieve that, but there are definitely some unknowns.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the figures are about 73,000 from Monday's budget discussions. That something like that.
Those confidential discussions.
Monday. Well, I don't think that figure is a problem, considering it was asked in relation to this matter about revenue and the loss of revenue.
Yeah.
We did have discussions, and there was a figure put up, something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's unavoidable, and it was just that
It has been
not
allowed for adequately in the
yeah,
budget
it's
process.
not mentioned in the report.
How confident are we of the 8-week period? I mean, the project management plan.
Yep.
Is there any contingency of that, or is that the best or worst case scenario?
There are liquidated damages that apply. So once a contractor has submitted a timeline, they will be held account to that. So it's certainly in their best interest to achieve it. My understanding is that if there are unavoidable weather delays, then that doesn't count towards a delay. So I think really aside from significant weather events that cause significant delays, we're fairly confident in this timeline.
Yeah, Councillor
Just
Stockwell.
Rycon rings a bell. Is that the Karoi-based company?
Believe they're down in Peregian Beach is their head office.
So they used to have a presence in Karoi, now based in Peregian, and have undertaken works for council before. So we have a high level of confidence in their ability to deliver product within a time frame.
Another question.
Councillor Wilkie.
This roof and deck has lasted 20 years.
Yep.
Has there been any change in the use of materials that will give the new deck and new roof a longer lifespan, or will it be a similar lifespan?
Yeah, so the roof sheeting is Colorbond Ultra, I think, which is about as high as it gets in terms of resistance to a coastal environment. That's one of the challenges that we've got there. So that was spec'd to try and maximise lifespan. With the deck solution, we had an inspection done by Black & Moore, who are structural engineers, and when they inspected that, they were quite concerned by the condition of the substructure particularly, and highlighted it is quite a corrosive environment there, with the chlorine constantly damp with people coming in and out of the pool. It's under shade, and obviously you've got the coastal environment as well. Their recommendation was for one of the higher end composite deck products, so that we don't suffer rotting issues, higher slip resistance with regard to people being there in bare feet, no shoes, don't have to worry about the splinters, sanding, ongoing oiling and maintenance of the deck. So we have spec'd one of those products, and we're confident that it'll be relatively maintenance free. That product comes with a 25-year domestic warranty. They don't apply that in a commercial setting, but there's a high level of confidence around the durability, and we hope that we're not in a similar position in 20 years' time where we're having to look at a full rebuild.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Looking for a mover?
Yeah, I'll move.
Moved Councillor Pardon, seconded Councillor Stockwell.
Oh, stand up.
You wish to speak to it, Councillor Pardon?
Only to say that it's like all our infrastructure, and we're on the coast here, and we're all aware we're doing a new roof on council's own facility, and very, as Ash pointed out, very corrosive down there, and no matter what we do or what, with regards to the specs, you can only put the best you can that's available on, but over in another 20, 25 years we'll find that it will start to corrode out. Salt water as well, the dewy air. So, but no, credit to Ash for putting this together, and it just comes a time we have to replace
Bite the bullet.
Yeah.
Anyone else wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not an unexpected expense. The money's set aside. It's used. The depreciation money has been set aside for this. It's budgeted for. It's works that just need to be done.
Thank you.
Close, Councillor Pardon?
I was just going to say I'm devastated that I don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go swimming in the pool.
In winter.
No.
Okay, the motion, all those in favour, thank you, that's carried. We go on to the second and final item for today. Once again, with regard to the Noosa Aquatic Centre, and this is the refurbishment of the pools at the Aquatic Centre. Any questions for staff? No.
Sorry, how long is the grouting and the tiling meant to last?
The grouting, it's roughly every 10 years you'd be looking at emptying the pool to replace that, and that's the schedule that we're on at the moment. So we did do it roughly 10 years ago. The coping tiles are the tiles along the edge of the pool, alongside the pool concourse. They have fairly heavy wear, obviously get knocked by water polo goals coming in and out and all sorts of other equipment. So we're replacing the coping tiles on the edge. The tiles within the pool themselves, to a large degree, will stay as they are. If we identify a tile or two that is chipped or damaged, we'll obviously replace that while we're in there doing it. But it's in line, I guess, with industry norms. So the current grouting will be removed as much as possible. New grouting goes in, do the coping tiles, redo the expansion joints, so take out the old material, replace that with new filler and sealant, and also the wet deck or wet decking, which is the cover that we have over the gutters around the pool. Basically, over time that becomes brittle and weakens. We've had some failures of that, and it's time to replace it. Unfortunately for us, the design of the NAC pool has non-standard gutter widths, which means it's not as simple as just going and getting an off-the-shelf product to drop back in there. So
Those non-standard gutter widths will get you every time.
they will.
Yeah.
Fortunately, a 25 metre pool does have standard gutter widths, so
Oh,
we need to replace that. It'll be fast.
It's a great relief.
Like the coping tiles, they're not coping.
No.
They've coped well for a long time, but
Just a question about the timing again. So obviously they're concurrent projects.
Yep.
The 8 weeks with the roof and the decking stuff, is this one going to be finished before that, or is this still also an 8-week period? It's got the dates in there.
yeah, basically the same. Yeah.
So of those two projects, which one would be at most risk in terms of time overruns?
Because this one looks like it's a 7-week project.
Yeah, they actually proposed a start date 1 week later because we were allowing time to neutralise the water of the pool and then empty that ourselves. They've actually offered to do that, so we're hoping to be able to bring that forward 1 week, so that'll give us a little bit more room at the end. I think probably the weather would affect the pool works more with the grouting, the tiling. If there was constant rain, that would be quite tricky. Obviously the roofing replacement will be affected by rain as well, but I'd say probably the pool would be more likely to suffer a delay in that situation. But fortunately, once we have the roof and deck finished, even if we don't have the 50 metre open, we could look at reopening the remainder of the facility with the 25 metre pool and the leisure pool being back in place. So.
Anything else, folks? Looking for a mover and a seconder?
I'll move, Mr. Chairman.
You get on the board.
He already is.
Yes, I'm
Second,
second.
let's go.
Yeah.
You wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr.
Anyone
Chairman.
wish to speak to it? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And that concludes